welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I am your host, Amber, and with me, as always, is Brittany.
Hello.
All right, Brittany, are you drinking Diet Sam's Cola today?
Ding, ding, girlfriend. You know it.
I got it! I feel like I need to gift you Diet Coke from time to time, just randomly shows up on your doorstep.
Yeah, that would be really great. And I'll just randomly gift you wine, and it'll be even better of a friendship if it could get any better.
Right? That's what real true friends do for each other.
That's right.
And to keep up with tradition, I'm drinking Rex Goliath Pinot Grigio.
Oh, okay.
I had to give Red a little bit of a rest because I'm still kind of not over drinking that giant bottle last time I saw you. So I'm drinking some Pinot Grigio out of the cute little raccoon glass that my mom got me.
I'm sorry about the Rex Goliath.
Why are you sorry?
I didn't know you were going to take it as a challenge.
I didn't. So God did not build me to drink. I like to drink, but God did not build my stomach to drink. So when I have a good time and I'm just enjoying myself, I'm not paying attention to how much I'm drinking. I just drink. And the next thing I know, I'm like, whoa, why do I feel like I'm going to puke? Why is everything spinning? But it wasn't like I was trying to get schmammered on purpose. I was just drinking it. And next thing I know, I was like, why is the bottle empty? And why do I feel sick?
That's okay. Mama Brittany took care of you. You were good to go.
You did. God, you were the best. I told my mom how well you took care of me, and she was so proud.
Oh.
She was like, that's my Brittany.
That warms my heart. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
She was like,
for
you
being
can tell
proud.
that's a true mom because she really took care of you. I was like, I know.
Of course. That's what I got to do.
So do you have a personal true crime story of the week?
Or
do you have, I guess, can you pick one?
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like I always have a true crime story of the week.
I've got one. I'll go first.
Okay, yeah, you go first. Let me think about it.
It's actually been a pretty good week. But last week, as you know, it was like the high was in the 70s. It was beautiful weather all week. The birds were chirping. Flowers are blooming. I was like on Lowe's website, like wanting to get all the things and start landscaping. This week has been nothing but rain and rain and more rain. And boy, seasonal depression is a thing. And so this week I've been a little bummed out.
Yeah.
I want my sunshine back.
I guess my true crime story this week would be that they called off school, because we were supposed to have some really bad weather, tornadoes and that sort of thing. And it didn't do anything at all. It rained about 7, long after my kids would have been out of school.
Yeah.
So, we do 4 days a week they go to school. So Wednesday they're off. So I had them 2 days in a row. And I'm like, I didn't bargain for this. I love my children. I do. But they need to be in school.
Space.
Yes. I mean, better safe than sorry. I get where they were coming from, taking the precaution. But as 2:45 rolled around and there still hadn't been a drop of rain, I was not happy.
I can imagine. And for your other true crime story, what are we covering?
Today, I am covering a person that was recommended to us by one of our patrons. This killer is one that I didn't know much about, but when I was looking through my big book of serial killers that you gave me, the words, one of the youngest serial killers ever discovered in America, stood out to me. And I knew that our patron was right. I had to cover this crazy story. Today, I'm covering Craig Price, also known as the Warwick Slasher.
The Warwick Slasher. That just sounds interesting.
It does.
Like, it would sound like one that would catch my eye, and I'd be like, ooh, let's see what this guy is all about. And aren't you so glad you did?
Haven't I complained all week that I'm ready to get this story over with?
You have complained all week, especially when you were deep in your research, where you're like, I just want to get this over with.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into with this story. It gets graphic in ways that I don't like. So here we go. Craig Chandler Price was born on October 11th, 1973 in Warwick, Rhode Island. He was born into a working-class family. I could not find out his mom's name anywhere, but his dad's name was John, and I do know that he lived in a small ranch-style home in the Buttonwood section of town with his parents and brother. He had earned the nickname Iron Man for his size and strength on the football field. He was said to have a baby face and a winsome smile. When he was young, his home life was described as loving and warm. But as he became a teenager, Craig started having a violent temper, often getting in physical fights with his family, which ended with the cops being called out to the Price home to break up the dispute.
Mm.
Like, how do you go from being like a sweet baby-faced kid in a warm, loving home to that? I don't know, but...
It definitely doesn't happen overnight, so
No.
who knows?
Craig and several of his friends decided to get together and break into several homes to steal things and sell them for money. And these so-called friends were bad news, and people all around town knew it. By the time Craig was 15, he had racked up a long line of criminal offenses, including peeping, theft, drugs, and burglary. But unfortunately, he had been committing much more heinous crimes behind the scenes for a few years. Okay, so you remember, we're talking about a 15-year-old kid and horrible things going on a few years prior.
That is quite the criminal resume for such a young person.
It is. It's insane. So when Craig was 13, he started watching one of his neighbor ladies through her window. Then on the summer night of July 27th, 1987, he crept across the woman's lawn. She only lived 2 houses down. And he broke into her little brown house and stole a knife from the kitchen and stabbed Rebecca Spencer, a 27-year-old mother of 2, 58 times.
My God. That's usually a crime of passion, but he doesn't really know this woman. It's just someone
No.
he's seen.
But I guess at 13, if you're trying to kill somebody and you don't really know, like, are they dead or are they not? I don't know. That's just my thought when I read
good
that.
point. Good point.
But definitely overkill.
Literally.
Yeah, for real. He then left and went about his life of petty crimes for 2 years. And of course, because of his age, he wasn't even considered as a suspect at the time of Miss Spencer's murder because he was only 13. But the neighborhood of Button Woods was terrified and began padlocking their doors at night. They couldn't believe something so terrible could happen in their quiet neighborhood. Which, of course, I would do the same thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
2 years later, when Craig was 15 years old and a freshman in high school, he committed another horrible murder. On September 1st, 1989, Craig got high on marijuana and LSD and went to the nearby home of Joan Heaton, who was 63, and her 2 daughters, Jennifer, age 10, and Melissa, age 8, and committed 3 of the most gruesome murders that I have ever read about. Joan was bludgeoned, strangled, and stabbed 57 times. Jennifer, the 10-year-old, was stabbed 62 times, and little 8-year-old Melissa's skull had been crushed with a kitchen stool, and she was stabbed 30 times.
My God.
Right? In fact, the stabbings were so brutal that the handles of the knives had broken off, leaving the blades in the victims' bodies.
Ooh.
One of the girls still had the blade in her neck.
What is this guy so angry about?
I can tell you at 15, I wasn't thinking about killing parents and their kids, but that's just me.
No, me neither.
That's why I run this podcast and am not a story on it. So on September 4th, 1989, a few days later, Marie Bouchard, which is Joan's mother, and her other daughter, so Joan's sister, Mary Lou, decided to drive to Joan's house to check on Joan and her daughters because they hadn't heard from her or the girls over Labor Day weekend. And they had just went shopping with them prior to Labor Day weekend, so they were a little concerned.
Mm-hmm.
When they arrived to the house, they noticed Joan's car in the driveway and went to ring the doorbell. No one answered, and they rang the doorbell several more times and called out, all with no answer. So Marie and Mary Lou decided they should go inside. As soon as they opened the door, a putrid smell wafted through the air, and they noticed blood splatter everywhere. They immediately knew something was wrong and decided to go in and try to find Joan and the girls. Like, can you imagine?
Oh my God, that would be so scary. Like, you don't even see the bodies yet, but you just know they're not answering, and you walk in and you see blood everywhere. Like,
And the smell alone, I would have been
And the
like, calling
smell.
the cops.
the stuff that nightmares are made of.
Absolutely. They found Joan in the hallway, covered in blood-soaked sheets, and Jennifer was nearby, while Melissa was lying in a pool of blood in the kitchen floor. Marie and Mary Lou were hysterical, understandably, but immediately called the cops. So within minutes, investigators and forensics were there setting up an investigation. Detectives were shocked at how brutal this crime was, and it was said that even the most seasoned investigators had difficulty holding back tears.
Mm.
Which that's saying something, because Investigators see a lot of bad stuff, so that's how absolutely bad it was. The Warwick Police Department was determined to catch the monster that committed these murders. They also asked for one of the FBI's top profilers, Greg O. McCrary, to help with the investigation. Mr. McCrary deduced that the killer probably lived in the Buttonwoods neighborhood and that Joan and her daughter's murders were connected to Rebecca Spencer's murder that was 2 years prior and still unsolved. Because the two cases had a lot of similarities. For starters, in both murders, the killer used a weapon of opportunity, which were knives found in the home, not brought from elsewhere. This suggested that the killer probably entered the home with the intent to burglarize and was caught off guard by encountering someone, and so then they murdered the people they encountered. And robbers usually choose houses near where they live to steal from because they are easier to stake out and get familiar with the residents, contents of the house, that sort of thing.
Very good points.
Right, yeah. And because these murders happened 5 houses down, he believed the killer lived in the Buttonwoods neighborhood. Another similarity was the excessive number of stab wounds in each murder. McCrary told the investigators that due to the, quote, frantic manner of the stabbing, end quote, that they should look for someone in the neighborhood with a cut hand, because the killer probably injured themselves during the stabbings.
Oh, he would have had to, yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially if it broke off in the neck and stuff. Oof.
Yes, yes. This was a great help to the Warwick Police Department, and on September 5th, 1989, just one day after the Heatons' bodies had been discovered, detectives Pendergast and Brandreth were driving through a nearby park, and Ray Pendergast had spotted a familiar face, one that Pendergast had coached in a local basketball program, and that face was 15-year-old Craig Price. Detective Pendergast knew Craig lived just a few doors down from the Heatons and decided to ask Craig if he had heard anything about the murders. Craig said, with concern in his voice, that he had heard the Heatons had been murdered and that he had seen the bodies coming out of the house. While talking to Craig, the detectives noticed Craig had a bandage on his hand and asked Craig what happened to his hand. Craig claimed that he had gotten drunk a few nights prior and punched the window out of a car on Keeley Avenue.
A 15-year-old said this.
Yes.
Okay.
They wondered why Craig would admit to 2 police officers that he had vandalized the car.
My point exactly.
Yeah, so...
Oh, I'm underage. I was drinking. Also, I vandalized the car. Yeah, no.
I guess maybe he felt comfortable with him, too, as well, because, you know, he had coached him in basketball, and so maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
They doubted that a teenager would commit such crimes, especially since Pendergast knew Craig personally. But because Craig lived in Buttonwoods and he had a cut on his hands, the officers knew that they could not ignore the coincidences. So they decided to investigate further, even though their colleagues thought they were wasting their time investigating a kid. Everybody else in the police department's like, why are you looking at this kid? That's crazy.
I mean, to be fair, it's crazy to think that a kid would do that.
Yeah,
I feel like I'd be one of those people. Like, no, this sweet little kid.
Yeah. And like I said, he was said to have a baby face and like real smiling and stuff. So I would never imagine a kid would do this. So I'm with those other guys.
You know what? I need to Google. I'm going to look those up while you continue.
They found no police report about a car being vandalized nearby. And they drove to Keeley Avenue and found no glass anywhere on the street. And this is when Craig became their lead suspect in these murder cases. But they didn't have enough evidence yet.
He was black?
Yes, he was black.
I don't know. I was just picturing some little white kid, but he does have the cutest little face.
I told you, he's adorable. In the meantime, an expert blood analyst determined from a bloody sock print that the killer wore a size 13 shoes. A sock print. I can't get past it. You always hear like shoe prints or footprints, but a sock print. Okay.
It all came down to a sock print.
That's right.
Richard Ramirez should have been so lucky.
You can't trace socks, fool. So at this point, detectives decided to further question Craig. He maintained his story about cutting his hand while trying to break into a car. The officers asked him to take a polygraph because, of course, they didn't believe him, and Craig complied. During the test, he was asked questions only pertaining to how he cut his hand. Craig failed the polygraph, but that only showed that he had lied about his hand, not that he had killed anyone, obviously. So, detectives had to dig deeper. They started interviewing Craig's friends and acquaintances, and through that, they discovered that Craig hung out with a group of kids who burglarized local homes, and that Craig had been bragging to his friends about killing Rebecca Spencer. This was the first piece of evidence that tied Craig to any of the murders. So the Warwick PD immediately sought a search warrant and set up overnight surveillance to make sure Craig wouldn't leave his house. Early in the morning on September 17th, the search warrant was granted, and a group of officers went to the door and rang the doorbell. Craig's father answered and was shocked to see the police at his house, but of course he let them in. The officer went and woke up the rest of the family and asked them to sit on the couch during the search. Craig's parents and brother were visibly upset, but Craig just dozed off on the couch. He just dozed off.
Like it's just another fucking day.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what?
Yeah, let me know what you find out. Wake me up when you're done.
Yes. Well, they found lots of stuff. So, in the backyard shed, they found a trash bag filled with blood-soaked clothes, gloves, and bloody knives from the Heaton home. The officers went inside and woke Craig up and arrested him for the murders of the Heaton family. Craig seemed unbothered.
Like he was expecting it almost.
Like, not even upset that he was being arrested.
I would love to know what was going through his mind at the time.
Oh, I would too.
Like why he was so chill about it.
You know, teenagers sleep a lot, though, so...
Yeah, normal teenagers do. I don't know about serial murdering teenagers.
If I killed somebody, I wouldn't be able to sleep at all. So, Craig and his family went down to the Warwick police station, where he was booked and interrogated. Because, of course, he's a minor. His family has to be there. Craig immediately confessed to the murders, saying it was just easier to tell the truth.
I mean...
Well, it is.
It is, and good for him. Again, he acts like he was just expecting it. Like, he knew they were going to find it, so, like, why freak out? He knew he was guilty, so why keep lying? And I don't know.
So pretty much the last couple of minutes can be summed up with, I killed these people, let me take a nap, and then I'll confess. Like, that's legit!
On a scale of 1 to him, like, how chill are you right now?
Yeah, that's right. Are you Craig Price chill?
So chill.
You know, like...
Yeah. Netflix ain't got nothing on me, bruh.
Craig Price and chill.
Craig Price and chill. That's so good.
I thought so. So Craig's poor mom and dad had to sit and listen to their son retell all these gruesome details. Because he was a minor, like I said, and he had to have a parent present.
And I assume they had no idea.
No, they had no idea. The mom was horrified and she cried through the entire thing. And Craig's father ran to the bathroom to vomit. I can't.
That is heartbreaking, though.
It is.
To know that, like, your precious baby boy did something so horrific.
Yes.
And is admitting to it and is so calm.
In great detail.
That would be hard.
Yeah. And Craig didn't hold back on details. He retold every horrifying thing about the murders, including that the girls really put up a fight. One of them bit Craig's face, and so Craig bit them back.
Oh.
He said that all 3 victims fought until they literally couldn't anymore because they had died. So these women, well, this woman and her daughters literally fought to death.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does he ever say why he did it?
Oh, yes. That's exactly where we're going next.
Today's episode is presented by Clark's. Clark's story began almost 200 years ago when Cyrus and James Clark made a slipper from sheepskin. At the time, it was groundbreaking, a combination of invention and craftsmanship that's remained at the heart of what Clark's does. From the very beginning, Clark's has always thought differently. Brilliant ideas are what set Clark's apart. We are teaming up with Clark's and Podgo to bring you 30% off select items, including the iconic Clark's Desert Boot, by going to podgo.co/Clark's. That's podgo.co/Clark's.
So it turned out that the FBI profiler was right. Craig had intended to rob the Heatons. But the ruckus woke up Joan because he fell on her table when he was crawling through the window and cut his leg, and it was loud. So she screamed when she saw him, which then woke up the girls. So he killed them. He said that he tried to clean up the crime scene, but didn't want to get caught. So he shoved everything he could into a couple of trash bags and headed home. He told police they could find a second trash bag of evidence in the attic, and they did. His blood type also matched the blood found at the scene, and he wore a size 13 shoe, or in this instance, a sock.
Case closed then.
Right?
Or
He was
cases.
he was telling the truth. He was definitely telling the truth. After the interrogation and confession for the Heaton murders, Craig surprised everyone by asking about Rebecca Spencer and admitting in great detail, with no remorse, that he had killed her too. And at this point, Craig just seems like the most nonchalant murderer to me. Like, I killed her too. You don't know about that? Like, what?
I don't know of another murderer who was like that. Do you?
No. But Craig would never have to face a trial or do prison time because he confessed to the murder right before his 16th birthday. And Rhode Island state law dictated that all they could do was hold Craig in a training school until he was 21.
What?
Yeah. So in 5 years, Craig would be free with a clean record.
Stop it.
That was the law.
Look, there have been times that I'm sure I was a real brat as a kid that, when you turn 21, you don't ever want to admit ever happened or that you ever had that kind of attitude. But, like, I didn't murder anybody. I feel like murder is a whole different level. And that should be part of your record no matter what age you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Murder. He didn't steal chapstick at the local CVS.
So obviously the way you and I are feeling right now is how the victim's family felt and all of Rhode Island. However, during this time, remember this, that a serial killer under 16 was ridiculously rare, and he was considered one of the country's youngest serial killers. So, of course, this law really didn't apply to anyone before Craig. So, Rhode Island's teeny tiny.
Yeah.
So, they had no child serial killers prior to this. At his court hearing on September 21st, 1989, Craig was ordered to serve 5 years at Rhode Island Training School's Youth Correctional Facility and ordered to undergo a psych eval and therapy. But Craig refused treatment and pled the fifth when asked by the judge about the murders. He withdrew from the diagnostic and treatment program ordered and, at the advice of his lawyers, claimed that it would, quote, result in his being placed in a psychiatric facility or commitment past his 21st birthday, end quote. So saying, I'm not doing this psych eval because you guys could keep me for life, and that's not the law, which he's not wrong.
No, but okay, you could have told me this story and not told me his age. And when we get to this part of the story where you're saying he's refusing to do that, I would automatically say this has got to be a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, his lawyers advised him not to partake in the psych evals because they could hold him. I don't know if he knew that, but that's their statement, and they said they advised him not to.
Wow. Okay.
So, while in the training school, Craig got his GED and started taking college courses. He wanted to be able to get a good job once released.
Oh, good for him.
Right, though? So, in 1993, Craig was in such good standing with the training school that he was allowed to counsel other youth, patrol the school's hallways, and make a rap video. Which, look, this is a training school. It is for youth. It is meant to rehabilitate. However, this rap video evidently was pretty profane, so I don't know why that was allowed, but...
Is he rapping about murdering innocent families?
If you can find that video, I will legit send you a bottle of wine.
Oh, I'm gonna look.
Okay, good. So, when the victims' families and other Rhode Islanders heard of Craig's special treatment at the school, they demanded that it stop. And it did, but Craig only had 1.5 years until he was released at this point. So then a group including Joan Heaton's mom and sister, Captain Collins of Warwick PD, and the Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Pine started lobbying the Rhode Island legislature to make new bills to stop Craig from being released and to make sure another situation like this never happened again.
Agreed.
Yeah, right. So they made sure to make Craig's crimes known to the world and shared that he would soon be released. They didn't want Craig to ever be able to murder again. Like, I'm talking like they were posting posters. They were telling anyone that would listen, hey, this dude killed these people.
Good for them. Yes, because it's bullshit.
Yeah, no, it is. But I also have to remember this is just a kid. I don't think that a 5-year sentence at a reform school is or training school rather, is the way to go with that. But I also don't know. I mean, if the point of prison is to rehabilitate, and somebody is rehabilitated, I feel like that they have no shot if you do that.
That's where I struggle, is the whole rehabilitation thing. I feel like there's some people that are just wired different and they're just going to continue to do this. They just need to be locked up forever. Like, I struggle with that. It's a per person basis.
Right, which doesn't really work for the judicial system. But for us, it is that
No.
way. But I say he's a kid because obviously he was doing pretty good in this training school up to this point. He was doing really good. And, he's taken away from these group of kids that's later known as a gang. And maybe he could have been rehabilitated. But regardless of all that, as a family member of one of his victims, there's no way I'd let that shit go. So no judgment here.
That's what I'm saying.
So 2 bills were passed in response to Craig Price. The O'Neill bill, which toughened sentences on teenage murderers, and the controversial Craig Price bill that gives the Attorney General the power to commit a mentally ill person to a mental institution if they pose a threat to society.
Thank you.
Well, but it's controversial because many people felt that the bill would give the mentally ill a bad name and cause discrimination against mentally ill persons. And I get where they're coming from with that, because not every person that's mentally ill is Craig Price. And you know that, and I know that.
No, I do. I'm just saying in instances of murder.
Well, yeah, but it just said if they posed a threat. And I feel like that's really open to interpretation, And it should have been like...
That's a very blanket statement for a very not blanket situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. In 1993, Captain Collins started a group called CORP, which stands for Citizens Opposed to the Release of Price. They concentrated on getting bills passed to prevent Craig from being released and raising money to spread awareness about Craig and his crimes. All while this is going on, Craig's preparing himself to re-enter society and refusing 6 times court-ordered psych evaluations. So 6 times he refused, which again, this is at the advice of his lawyers.
I don't like that at all.
I know. It's like, but...
Like, if you need the help, you need the help.
Yeah, no, he does need the help, but I think he's scared to take it because he'll be, put away for life. And in his mind, I guess he's not crazy. You know how teenagers are. I was one. You were one.
I know. That's why I said I could tell, even if you didn't tell me that this is a teenager, I'd be like, this is a teenager. Or it'd be someone mentally at the level of a teenager because this is some teenager shit.
It is, 100%. So, in May of 1994, President Bill Clinton flew into Rhode Island to discuss state affairs, and he was greeted by protesters and a plane carrying a banner that read, "Alert, killer of 4, Craig Price moving here." Can you imagine? Like Clinton just showing up, and there's planes flying around with banners about murders. Like, he's probably like, what?
Oh, so he was going for other state matters, not specifically for that.
Just,
I got you.
Just regular state stuff. But it shook him. It shook him good, because later in a televised interview, President Clinton let his dismay over Craig Price's release be known and said that records of juvenile defenders should be publicly accessible to prevent juveniles with violent records from purchasing firearms, which prompted Rhode Island lawmakers to look into laws surrounding juvenile records.
Good job, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I never did find if they actually changed it or just looked into it, but hopefully they changed that.
I bet they changed it.
Then on June 8th, 1994, Craig was indicted for simple assault and extortion for threatening to hurt an officer at the training school. And also in June, Craig's many refusals to submit a psych eval started causing problems. He was told that he would be held in contempt of court if he did not abide, and he still refused. But on June 27th, at his hearing for his release, the judge once again ordered him to comply with the psych eval, and Craig again refused. So, the judge sentenced him to a year at an adult correctional facility and told him that the only way he could reduce the sentence is to do the psych eval. So finally, Craig agreed to undergo psychiatric evaluation. However, even though Craig participated, he lied about many things pertaining to the murders he had committed.
Oh my God. What a little punk.
So, on October 3rd, 1994, Craig's trial for the assault and extortion began, and the prosecutors talked about how Craig verbally abused the officer and threatened to hurt the officer if he kept working at the training school, and also brought up that Craig had been busted for having cigarettes and a lighter. They called the officer in question, Officer Petrella, to the stand, as well as 5 other witnesses who agreed with Officer Petrella's accounts of his encounters with Craig. The next day, it was Craig's turn to testify. He admitted to shouting a profanity at the officer, but said he never threatened him and that he believed Petrella's report was a conspiracy to keep him locked up. I don't know that he's wrong, though. I mean, I'm not saying these people are lying. I would hope they would not lie under oath. But obviously, the entire state of Rhode Island is like, this is bullshit, and it's everywhere. There's not any person that could not be biased to Craig Price at this point.
Right, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Also, he admitted straight up to, like, all the horrific murders he did, but, he won't admit to this one little thing about an officer. I kind of believe him.
Yeah, I kind of do, too. I mean, I don't want to say these people are lying, either. I think the truth lies somewhere in between there. I don't know.
Agreed.
During cross-examination, Craig got enraged, claiming that he was the only truthful person to take the stand and that everyone, including prosecutors, were part of the conspiracy to put him behind bars. On October 7th, 1994, the jurors found Craig guilty on both counts. But as the verdict was read, relief spread across the courtroom because Craig wouldn't be released into society.
Hallelujah.
Right, but was he found guilty because he actually threatened the officer's life, or was he found guilty because Rhode Islanders did not want Craig back on the streets? That is the question.
Doesn't matter. I'm fine with it.
So either way, he was found guilty and sentenced to 15 years with 8 years of those suspended. In February of 1996, he bit a correctional officer's finger in a fight and was strangely charged with a probation violation even though he was still in prison.
Yeah, how does that work? That doesn't sound right.
It doesn't. Everybody wondered how that worked. I wondered it while I was researching this. He was also given an assault charge. He was found guilty and another year was added to his sentence. In 1997, Craig was put on trial for contempt of court when he lied on the psych evaluation. Craig actually admitted to the charges and was found guilty. 25 years was added to his sentence, but only 10 had to be served, and then he would have to do 15 years probation, which that's legit the longest probation sentence I've ever heard of in my life. 15 years. Whew. Then, in October of 1998, he got in trouble again for assaulting a correctional officer and had 7 more years added to his sentence. Then again, in February 1999 and October 2001, he was found guilty of verbally and physically assaulting correctional officers and had 4 years total added to his sentence.
I hate this guy. I hate this guy.
So, in 2004, Craig was transferred from Rhode Island to Florida Department of Corrections due to his violent tendencies, which honestly is probably for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2009, he was denied parole and his release date was set to May 2020. On July 29th, 2009, Craig got into a fight with a fellow inmate and correctional officers tried to break up the fight and one of the officers was stabbed in the finger by a handmade shiv in Craig's position. So he was then sent to another correctional facility.
They're like, he's your problem now.
Then, on April 4th, 2017, Amber, this is 3 years before this guy was going to get out. Craig was charged with stabbing fellow inmate Joshua Davis with a homemade 5-inch knife. Like, how stupid do you have to be? He pled guilty to that charge, and on January 18th, 2019, he received a 25-year sentence and a 10-year probation sentence for possessing contraband. Can you imagine, though, like 3 years till you get out after all these years, and you just be like, screw it, let me stab somebody. What?
I mean, he's been in there how long? Like, he doesn't sound like the brightest.
Well, too, at this point, he's been in prison more than he was out of prison because he was so young.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't really know much different, so...
Craig Price is known for stabbing people excessive amounts of time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this guy didn't die? Like, what? I can't believe after all these years, he just got his stabbing down to one time. You know, like, what?
And then he gets, like, the free t-shirt that says, like, I survived Craig Price.
Yeah. So, Craig is currently incarcerated at Florida State Prison in Rayford,
Thank
Florida.
you, Jesus.
Yes, and literally no one can even estimate his release date. I Googled it several times, like it went to several different websites, and everybody's like, who knows? Could be 2022.
So he's in Florida? Only Florida can handle him?
He is a Florida man now, okay? He is a Florida man.
Sorry, Florida fans, if there are any. I love Disney World, and that's about it.
My cousin lives in Florida, and I love her. There are great people in Florida, but, you know, y'all have some crazy stories from Florida, so...
There's just some crazy people in Florida. That's all.
Yes. And Craig Price is one of them. So that is the gruesome, wild story of the young kid that became the infamous Warwick slasher, Craig Price.
Wow. So first off, congrats on being done with that, because I now understand why you were like, I need to be done with this. I'm over it.
Oh, I'm so over it.
As we mentioned earlier, this story was suggested to us by one of our patrons. So just a friendly reminder, if you do want to suggest some stories to us, we are on Patreon. You don't have to be a patron to suggest stuff. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. But let us know if there is a story that you want us to cover, because we are always looking for great ideas.
Yes. Great ideas welcome.
Love our podcast? Then hit that subscribe button and leave us a review.
We're also on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/truecrimebuzz and join today for access to all our exclusive content, including bonus episodes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TC Buzz Podcast.
And check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com.
Until next time, cheers!